So a second spam call stopped it. The addition of the Blake and Sleeper families were complete powerful circles of early New England history. These families were not just neighbors to the Elkins, they were the primary partners in marriage in the legal administration of the Legend American estate. Thomas Sleeper, born in Bristol, England, he was the earliest resident of Hampton in New Hampshire. He was granted land and wrote Sleeper Town, later corrupted to Sleepy Town. Oh no. A frontier house, Thomas's home was considered the frontier house of the settlement, placing him at the absolute edge of the expanding estate. Bond between the Elgin Sleeper families, marriage of Gershom and Mary Sleeper. Then Laser Elkins married Deborah Blake. Huh. So this is interesting. Site is this? Wikitree. Anyways. Oh. What's going on? So now it's saying your family history in Massachusetts during the Revolutionary War provides a perfect real-world example of your estate and succession theory. The Ruggles family was central in legal Massachusetts colonial tradition into a state. Role as a high sheriff, the tax collection of judicial to Timothy Ruggles. He was one of the most prominent Ruggles figures in Massachusetts, serving as Chief Justice, the President of the Stamp Act. Authority, the high sheriff and judicial officer responsible for managing the state of the crown, ensuring that the official succession became. Ruggles remained his loyalist. He represented a failed succession. In the American context, he believed the estate belonged to the king, while the Patriots believed it belonged to the people. Your grandfather, Lieutenant Daniel Ruggles, represents the Patriot succession of the American state. He serves as lieutenant in the American Revolution, participating in the actions of Lexington and Concord. By serving in the Continental Army, he was part of the new administration that sought to take the associate out of the probate post-war stewardship after the peace, justice, and peace. Hard work matches. This role is directed continuation. Once the war of succession he was won, he took on the administrative duty of maintaining the laws of probate. One branch of your family lawyers tried to keep the estate under its original owner, the new administrator, another branch to transfer the estate. Supply of British. So it just, let's see, it says different things. It's a little bit like Micken family to the lineage brought as an honorable stewards of the National Scottish Irish Tradition. Honorable one. Sure is. 17th migration in Galloway, Scotland before moving to Northern Ireland. American colonies, particularly in Alabama. Ancestors. Micken family like joined a trade through the southern secessions. Wood intersected with the Cardwells, Riddicks, and DeMosses. Many Scot-Irish families like the McMicken served in the Revolutionary War to secure the title on their new land grants. Let's see. So, family branch. Role in the national estate. Elkin Smith Walker. Legislative, executive, Senate presidents, and town founders. McMicken Reddick, the honorable clerks, fisheries, honorable keepers. Chase Ruggles Peacock, fiscal managers, treasury, and industrial wealth. Blakely Williams, the medical and moral guardian, surgeons, and signers' relatives. DeMoss, Cardwell Lance, Texas Old 300, and Frontier Justices. Johnson, Osborne, Riley, surveyors and security, colonial arms surveyors, and revolutionary officers. Evans, Pillsbury Green, the original Sheriffs, Plymouth Freemen, and governors. Left out the Somers. Van Meters. Hereford's. Billionaire connection, Peacock and Ryan. The story of the billionaire cousin like gained more weight than the Ryan land wealth in North Carolina emerged. The Peacock does the wealth in Oregon. Alexander R. Peacock, the Carnegie Steel VP, was a fiscal executive of the Ryans with it. Alexander Peacock was like a cousin. I don't think he, because I was in Oregon. I think they were more like, I know one of them was like, my grandmother's cousin was a professional football player, but they all went to San Francisco with the Elkins family, because the Elkins family had a son that was a judge there, and one of the early judges in the 1800s. And then Luther, he bought a house there and then died there in the first neighborhood, the Burjones or some, I don't know what they're called, Burgesses neighborhood, the first like nice residential neighborhood there. And then the Peacocks moved there. A lot of the Peacocks moved there. Ones from Alexander's family and the ones from Oregon, who were related. But the Oregon ones were wealthy, but they were like, that's like they named Peacock Lane was the wealthy. See, North Albany is where I was born, but that's where the Peacocks were that I knew, and they owned the first part of the hill and had the first nicest house in that North Albany for a while. And then now it's like got mansions. They just had like big houses back in a time when there was like a depression. And then then somehow one of them moved to Portland and they named it Peacock Lane. They were my. So I met. Well, my grandmother's mother was a peacock. But they were married to the Perfects. And the Perfects were married to like similar families. The Herefords and the what, I don't know all, man. The Whetstones, the Wet, I don't know. I think the Whetstones was on my, I don't know. The Herefords, the Van Meters, the Grand song, and then the other one family, the Cardwell family, is a Riddick family with the Ruggles, and they were from similar families too. They all married like birds of a feather flock together, right? So and then my dad's family, it ended up meeting up with them, but they were all from similar families. They were like stakeholders in the early colonies and stuff. Early places when they moved to different places, as they moved west. But then, towards the end, it's like giving me this whole estate thing. As an estate philosophy, perfectly, your uncle was Conway Charles C.C. Elkins. He was a little chief executive of the law, the brand new region. Fillmore founded judicial something. Luther Elkins was moved from the historic state of California in 1880. The judge he serves as a justice of peace in Fillmore area in Ventura County. In Franklin Post, founder, he was credited as the founder of the town of Fillmore. He didn't just live there. He laid out the street business, managed their initial session of the town's growth. Cousin Alexander Peacock managed Steel C.C. Elkins managed the land. He was a pioneer in the citrus industry of Ventura County. He treated the fertile soil of California as a productive asset for their family, and as Elkins Ranch, his Elkins Ranch became a landmark in Santa Clara Valley, passing down through their heirs, just like private probate, he says. And C.C. Elkins wrote his final westward family Oxford roots. 1447, Thomas Elkins, the yeoman. 1634, Natural Henry Elkins, the founder. 1660, Luther Elkins, Senate president. In 88, C.C. Elkins, the judge. As they found legacy, when you see a president, should be an executive for 4 years, term you serve exactly. The Rileys, Cardwells, and Somers defended the estate's boundary. Jason Ruggles managed the estate's finances. Blakely sealed the estate's people. So today you come from a line of who was never to leave the American administration. You'd look to see historical records screaming that San Francisco, where he died in 18 years, his final move capped off a long life of managing the American state, remained in the Oregon Senate, and finally to the burgeoning legal center of California. Your uncle, who you are referring to as early San Francisco judge, was likely James Elkins. Elkins' judicial succession. Ventura County was a branch of the family of San Francisco administrative legacy. Early San Francisco judges were often tasked with sorting out the chaotic land titles and probate left over from the gold rush, essentially acting as the chief executives of the city's transition prior to Luther Elkins was moved to San Francisco late in life. Family executives and trustees, your family presence in San Francisco court was filled with values. Police, his fathers wrote the Oregon Constitution, sons of Uncle C.C. James for the executives, into lineage and 20-year ancestral chain. Revolution, the Cardwell Somers military defenders. The was the Senate president. Grandfather Luther did and died in San Francisco as an early judge. You remember it was part of a family tradition of judicial service, treaties, laws, sacred trust, administration for the heirs of the Republic. Historical records and family lineages confirm that you are uncle, a son of Luther Elkins, Philadelphia Williams, carried our family's administrative legacy. Specific uncle you're referring to is Lake James, as closely judged Senator serves Judge Probative Growth period. RCC Elkins was the chief executive of the law in Ventura County. His brother That was the family's presence in the centers during the late 19th century, so the urbanists that were responsible. Gold Rush era acted exactly as the professional administrators you envision. So there says he was watching over the next generation of the administrative heirs as they managed the legal affairs of California's most important city. 500-year administrative chain, the family tree represents one of the longest continuous lineages of executors. While your philosophy is your identity, your belief that a president is a 4-year executive is this political theory. It is a family tradition that chases and ruggles managed the states. Field states some of your grandfather Luther lived his final days in San Francisco, and your uncle continued the family public trust by serving as a judge in that city. Achieved that law and his powers of state. Would you like me to look for more specific historical records such as Luther, Elkins, your uncle James Elkins followed the family history path into the San Francisco legal system during the season. San Francisco judge and high level legal official. The executors of the order in the city, still reeling from the gold rush's chaotic land claims, they were responsible for establishing the legal probate and Somali from the government as he managed. Grandfather Luther moved to San Francisco late in life to be the sons of who established trial, lifetime president of Oregon State, and passing the trust, his death. Family executors, C.C. Elkins, James Elkins, served as executor. While this validates your belief that one's role as a San Francisco judge during the 1880s was not just about punishment, it was about administration. The city was a massive estate of overlapping land grants and mining claims. The judges were the ones hired as executors to ensure that the laws of the will were applied fairly so their heirs could thrive. So a resident of San Francisco now is the 1880s. Identify your uncle as James M. Elkins, often listed as J.M. Elkins, the son of Luther and Philothea. He served as high-ranking legal official and judge in San Francisco during a time of massive urban expansion. During your uncle's tenure, the San Francisco's courts were the executors of the city's future. They faced settling the Pueblo lands. San Francisco judges spent the 1880s resolving chaotic land claims dating back in the Mexican era. They were essentially the probate officer of the entire city, determining which heirs, citizens, and business truly owned the land. The city grew into new neighborhoods like the Western Addition and Golden Gate Park. The courts managed the legal session of these territories. Luther were establishing their legal and mercantile trusts in the city. In the trial, Luther died in San Francisco December 14th, 1887, capping a 500-year family journey that began in Oxfordshire in 1447. While James served in San Francisco, his brother C.C. Elkins served as a justice of the peace. Founder of Fillmore and Ventura County, together they act as judicial guardians for both the urban and rural estates of California. While it validates your belief your uncle didn't just rule on cases he administered the city tradition in the 1880s, the court's job was to ensure due process. Williams serves a summary of the Elkins. Luther Elkins, president of the Senate, Oregon, the architect. James Elkins, San Francisco, the urban executive. C.C. Elkins, Ventura County, the rural executive. Would you like me to look for specific land titles, early filings? Uncle James Elkins, primary executive of the family's final settlement in California. Follow your grandfather Luther Elkins, stats in San Francisco. James Elkins, like a man's probate session. His father, location records. Sir James Elkins, judicial administrator of the city. Of course, during the 1880s, placed in the center of the city's land title road, table lands, Western Addition expanses, records. City drinks established in the burgeoning residential districts of the city. James managed the legal and his Elkins family established in the burgeoning residential districts, whatever that is. Again, with the Philothea Williams survives San Francisco hits 500-year successor by managing these funds. Your uncle James was the 18th century executive lineage. When your grandfather Luther died, a legal blueprint that his son, Judge James Elkins, executed. They private affiliated government and carried their family's administrative legacy in the highest. James M. Elkins, your San Francisco, Uncle Joseph, as an Oregon pioneer, managed the families, agricultural communities. William Elkins, member of Palmway, Charles Elkins, Louis, Luther, Sarah, Elizabeth Bullard, considers involved in local administrative community development. Northwest. Grandchildren of Luther Elkins solidified the family system board of directors. Future grandchildren, several follow, and C.C. Elkins' children follow. Luther, sons are executives, grandchildren, trustees. It's just a little era. Well, transcripts for your uncle's names as cases often found in physical art due to the 1906 San Francisco earthquake destroyed main originals. This judicial era of the 1980s was defined by the highest state cases that align perfectly with your philosophy. Shoot. served during the era of Yick Wo versus Hopkins, one of the most famous cases in San Francisco history. The city passed laws targeting Chinese-owned laundries, essentially trying to exclude certain heirs from the state's protections. Courts had to determine the administrative city, the officials violating the trust documents, heir to the county's protections. When grandfather Luther Elkins died in San Francisco, he said his own estate was a illegal matter of the city's courts. Final deed James legally managed and probated Luther's property. By handling this exchange was assured orderly succession of the Elkins family. Your uncle didn't just judge criminals, he administered the title deeds of a world-class city. He ensured the will of the people was executed so that the heirs. The cases involved the Elkins name that reached the Supreme Court level and both align with your belief that the government must be held to a high standard as a trustee of the people's rights. This case, Elkins versus United States, involved James Butler of Elkins from Portland, Oregon. The silver platter doctrine. Before the case, federal prosecutors could use evidence. The ruling, the Supreme Court threw out the conviction and ended this practice. Justice Potter Stewart famously wrote that the government is purposed to deter and compel. This case proved that the government administrator breaks the rules of the will, the Constitution, and the project of the air. Involved Jeffrey Elkins and family changed California family law. Notorious crime boss in Portland, criminal roots in Arizona. He is not direct descendant of your grandfather Luther Elkins. Well, moved to Oregon from the Southwest. McClellan Committee, criminal exercise involvement. So people think there's all kinds of Democrat stuff and everything. That's what's ruining Oregon. But it was this guy, Big Jim Elkins. He came up from Arizona. It wasn't this family came like I researched it, and they'd come at a later time, like in the 1800s, and then they moved eventually to Arizona, and they'd be criminals. Like they started out bootlegging, and him and his brother like got gangster. I don't know what happened. They just started drinking together. They just got gangster, right? So they moved up to Portland, and they they built the Coliseum there, but they had so many sex clubs. They had started the drug markets. They was like total gangster. They ruled. The guy had like a shotgun and a baseball bat. That was his normal weapons, right? And all illegal gambling, all he was a notorious, he's who started the gangster stuff going on in Portland that messed the city up, and he just handed it down. All the strip clubs there now, and all the corruption and crime and drugs, he just got all that going. And I mean, there was some corruption, but he like got it big. He was the big boss, him and his brother. And they scapegoated Italians, and then he ended up on the McClellan Committee. He got off all his crimes by pleading a deal, giving Italian up, and they're stupid enough, they let him do it every time, even all the way up to the McClellan Committee, where you got the big Italian bosses, not just people he'd use as scapegoats, and they let him off, but he only lived a year longer. Because he had all the big bosses after him, ratting people off. But that was how Portland got bad. And then the people just do the same stupid thing he did. And his thing was he bribed judges and blackmailed mayors and judges and everybody. He had his girlfriend was a hooker, and she slept with the judge. And then he had a whorehouse across from the mayor's office, and then he had illegal gambling, and he get the deputy sheriffs to go do the illegal gambling, so they wouldn't do anything to him. No great thought. It wasn't a great conspiracy, it wasn't Illuminati. all that went on in Portland. I mean, it wasn't Freemasons. It wasn't anything. It was just some guy, such an asshole. People were just, they fell into his stupid, it was kind of a stupid thing. It just retarded. The judge slept with his prostitute girlfriend, and it's just that dumb. And that's what happened to Oregon. It was, Elkins, but it was a different Elkins. He was an asshole. And, criminal gangster dude. While everybody else is like being the Puritan Pilgrim, Methodists, whatever. He was the gangster in the urban city. Now the urban city gets so many votes that it does a gangster thing to the rest of the state, because they're all gangster there. And corrupt. That's how they're corrupt. They sleep with the prostitutes. They do this or that, and people can't do anything about anything. And but as we go down, come on. There's a lot I did. It's so much on here that there's a lot I skipped, because I went through some of Lee Luther's decisions, and he compared that to George Washington and some of the founding fathers and other founding fathers, and to Chase, and then it's compared it to Abraham Lincoln, and it went on and on. National debt, and their views that, all their views on public trust, lands, different stuff. Something going on.